What's going on, everyone? Miller.
Necrotic Nick.
And we got a review for you, of course.
We are going to go over the latest offering from German black metal act Imperium Dekadenz with their new album Into Sorrow Evermore. This comes out on the 20th of January on Napalm Records, another one for Napalm Records because we just went over Catatonia not too long ago. This band formed in 2004 in Germany. This is a two-man black metal act. This is their 7th album overall. I got into them with their 5th album, Dis Manibus, and they spelled Manibus with a V in place of a U, just so you know they're serious about their black metal.
And I've never heard of them, so that's the first go for me, because I'm not a fan of black metal, like you guys all know.
Yeah, and honestly, it had been a while since I had returned to this band. I really enjoyed that album, but part of me kind of like lumped it under like enslaved worship, and I may have been off on that one. I don't know. I need to go back and listen to that one. But it had a lot of stuff on it that reminded me particularly of like early enslaved around like Frost and Eld. But I might have been a bit off on that because going into this is, man, like very, I guess, Cascadian, depressive kind of black metal.
It's not in the same sense. It's kind of got this like really melodic, uplifting kind of feel to it.
Very.
We'll get into it more detail here, but right off the bat, it starts with what I would think a black metal album would start out with. It's very black metal sounding. But then when the growl comes in, it opens up into this other thing. I was like, holy shit, this is kind of cool. It caught my attention right off the bat. It's like this melodic, I don't know, it's black metal, but it's melodic and it's kind of bright sounding, a good hooky chorus, but it's black metal.
Bright is an interesting word for this, because it does feel bright. There's a lot of ascending riffs. Like this lays on tremolo and atmosphere like you would expect from black metal. Like this is very akin to bands like Garia, Wolves in the Throne Room. I would even say Ueda to some degree too. But man, like you get walls and walls of tremolo riffs, and you know it's got this very rich, thick guitar sound. Still has all the hallmarks of like black metal. Like it is a very cold sounding guitar, but it's what they're playing. Like a lot of these songs like tend to ascend rather than descend. Like it's definitely dark, especially when you come down to like the lyrical subject matter. It's, you know, death and cultism and occasionally like nature worship too, which I guess can be more positive. But the music itself, I mean, there's a good chunk of this that feels somewhat uplifting. And I thought that was really interesting, especially like the opening track, the title track, and Truth Under Stars. Those, I don't know, they just have like a quality to them where, you know, it's like the attune with nature sort of vibe. Especially Truth Under Stars, you have layered vocals of spoken word and growls. And, you know, the growls or screams are very cavernous. Everything's very echoey, but I don't know, like there's just something maybe like reflective about it that's, I don't know, it's captivating.
Yeah, and the drums too, they show that you don't have to play blast beats all the time. You can open up, let loose, hey, we're having fun. It's a goddamn rock show.
And I mean, honestly, like, you know, there's still a ton of blasts on here, but it's how they do it. Like, you have good long sections of tremolo riffs and harmonies, and again, the layering on the guitars is great. Like, all of the tremolo riffs feel like they're accented with like a beautiful fucking guitar harmony behind it. But they break it down into like actual breakdowns, like groovier moments, like double time sections. It doesn't just kind of stay static. Like, you know, this kind of has some elements that would be comparable to like, you know, black gaze bands like Deaf Heaven, except this is infinitely more listenable and 100% less pretentious, I think. But where this album, I think, really opens up is kind of later on the album where it gets a little bit more depressive. Because, yeah, there are tons of ascending melodies. And, again, it feels very bright and, like, triumphant in some regard. But, again, sort of like playing off the lyrical subject matter, which is very dark. I don't know, like, you're kind of confused. But where it really matches up is in the kind of slower, more groovy and just dark sounding songs like November Monument, Elysian Fields, and Aurora. These songs, I don't think they even bother blasting. There's barely any blasting at all. They are more slow, sullen, depressive. The opening piano on Aurora, instant mood setter, and that mood is dark.
Even Aurora, like, is a little sadder than the songs before it, but they still maintain a brighter melody through the chorus in there, and then they have that big like drum off thing that goes and drops off into the piano part, which fits really well. It's one of the better examples of use of a piano in a metal song, like across like forget the genre thing, just metal, you know. It's one of the better uses of a piano in there. It fits really well, and it goes out throughout the song, but the piano doesn't override anything, or it doesn't drop off. You know, it fits really well.
This album, I would say, is all about mood and atmosphere. Definitely comes across in production, which is really good. Like, it's solid production. It still maintains, like, a rawness. It still lets the atmosphere breathe. Like, there's definitely a lot of reverb, especially in the vocals, but
and the drums.
Everything is separated really well. Like, you can make out everything. It doesn't get muddy to the point where, like, this has just become sort of a wall of dissonance. And while it's a pretty melody, I can't make out much behind it. This is, again, very fine-tuned, and the songs flow remarkably well. Like, the transitions are very smooth. There's good peaks and valleys. Like,
not even the songs, just the album. Just talking about the album.
And pulling different influences from like different camps in black metal. Like, you have almost like a goth rock-ish sort of, breakdown on Truth Under the Stars, which I think is one of the best melodies on the entire album. Like, it's just an instant fucking hook. And then you have songs like Forest and Gale, which has like kind of a more like traditional folky melody behind it. Like, black metal and folk definitely go together really well, but there's also sort of like a doom-tinged riff to the start, but as the song goes on, it starts building more into that triumphant territory. It's almost like a downhill charge, like Vikings going down a mountain to raid a fucking village. I know they're German, so Saxons. Saxons. Anyway, as the song moves on, like, it has this big riffy hook in here, and riffy hooks are kind of like, a little bit pockmarked in here, because a lot of this kind of lays on the drone and builds the atmosphere. And granted, it's beautiful. It works. It's this constantly fucking peaked, like, melody thing that's just all over this album. But this has a riffy breakdown that, honestly, if you kind of broke it down a little bit more, it's almost just a straight-up rock riff. Like, it's just a big, flat-out, muscular rock hook, and it's fucking awesome.
Talking about this song, like, it just reminds you, like, they have to stick to this black metal thing because they're a black metal band. But it reminds you that these guys are just fucking dudes that want to jam, dude. They want to fucking rock, and it's not all about just like being in awe of like the blistering guitar speed and stuff like that. Like, just fucking jam, dude. Let your hair down. And Forest and Gale is a good example of that.
And I think like a little bit of that, like kind of like rock energy, or at least like rock riff, but played by a black metal band, kind of comes on the last track, Memories, A Raging River, which is a fantastic closer. Brings back more of the blast at first, like you kind of get settled back into the overall sound on this. But again, giant cascading melodies and huge dynamic sweeps, and again, never losing momentum. That is like one of the coolest things about this album, like, is just sort of a straight shot down a straight road of just awesome fucking melodies. The mood shifting is honestly one of my biggest appeals to this. Like, it really draws you in. Like, again, these bright, shining riffs occasionally mixed with this very cold atmosphere, and switching from triumphant to depressive. Again, when they're depressive, it's dark. Like, definitely seems to be a theme for this fucking weekend of reviews, because we've gone over some very fucking depressive shit. But like, I don't know, they really excel at both ends of the spectrum here. In fact, I would say, like, as soon as you fucking put on a song like Elysian Fields or Aurora, it instantly starts raining outside. Like, that's the fucking mood right there. But they also kind of get into what I would say is like a little bit more like traditional, like second wave black metal worship on the song Awaken Beyond Dreams. This song, I would say, is the only one on here that really kind of has like a more sinister edge. Like, they kind of go back and maybe, take a little bit from like bands like Satyricon and Mayhem. The tremolos feel absolutely icy cold for the most part, but it does this weird thing where it kind of flips to what they've been doing on most of the album here, where they're, again, kind of bright and very melodic versus very cold and a little bit more dissonant and ugly, and then sort of mixing in that folky touch that's, kind of in black metal in general. And I like this song. I think it's really cool. It's the longest song on the album, and it has a lot of really interesting dynamics, namely the big drop off to this creepy fucking breakdown with like haunting groans.
Yeah.
I mean, the atmosphere on there is just dark as hell. Like, it sounds like it was recorded at the bottom of a well. It's not quite like, I'm gonna burn that fucking church down, black metal, but it's like, I don't like that church in my block. I'll actually, just tell people about that every now and then, but I'm not gonna burn it down, I promise.
One of the gripes overall I have about black metal, and this does that too, but it's more of like just snare and drumming. The snare sounds great in this.
Oh yeah, it does.
Like when the blast beats come in, it kind of like the volume just kind of drops off the mat. Now, you can't expect everybody to be Mike Smith. And I don't, because Mike Smith is a T-1000. He's not human. He's metal. Mike Smith is fucking metal. But it would be nice if there was a little bump. I think it would make those black metal parts at least stand out a little bit more for me, or at least drive that if the snare was up a little bit, and that's a little bit of production thing.
And when you get like long droning sections where it's like a static blast beat, and this song I think definitely has a bit more of that. It does start feeling long, and I guess like it makes sense to hit it a little bit lighter, but how the snare sounds in the rest of the album, like it's got a good snap to it. And production sometimes is a gripe I have about black metal in terms of like certain styles of it. This I don't really have any complaints about the production overall, except for sometimes you lose the snare and the blast beat, but that's kind of something I come to expect occasionally in black metal. But overall, like it's the vibe on here. Like, this is just a really interesting album. It's so melodic. Like, it is actually driven more by melody than heaviness. Like, there are
it was surprisingly melodic.
There's no like chuggy riffs or
rocky.
It's all pretty much about the tremolo and about the atmosphere, and they do a great job. Like, this is fiercely engaging. I know black metal is supposed to be like, cold, icy, evil. This is still that lyrically, but musically, again, it's very bright. Like, the riffs are almost warm enough to melt the ice that's, pretty much encapsulating the band or whatever, like the ice tower. So I don't know where they live. They're in Germany. But I don't know, like there's that sort of appeal to it. Like, I like this sort of, I don't know, like almost sort of trance-like state you get in, like, listening to it.
This isn't a riff fest. There's still elements of like good rock, headbanging rock.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It's so weird.
And honestly, like, I make complaints about, like, things droning on too long in terms of, like, tremolo riffs. Again, Deaf Heaven, like, seriously, they play, like, one chord for, like, a solid 10 minutes and call it a song. Drives me nuts. But this band, while it does drone, the riff changes happen a little bit more frequently, and they add harmonies to it a lot. Plus, you have synths in there, too. It all keeps the song moving. It keeps it interesting. It keeps it engaging, and that is like the main thing on here. That is what kept me in this and kept me enjoying it and finding a lot of cool stuff on here. Like, I really need to revisit that album that I've had for fucking years now and go back and see if it's as good as this, because this, I think, is fucking excellent. So overall, I'm gonna give this 4 stars. I really dig this. I kind of knew I would. I jammed one of the tracks. I was like, hey, this is really good. And it reminded me, I was like, man, I need to revisit this band. And now I definitely do. Well, mainly because I'm gonna get this album like not too long after we're done reviewing this. This is very just engaging, melodic black metal. Like, they pull from a lot of different camps, but man, the songwriting here is excellent. The melodies are constantly just stuck in your head. Like, they're very triumphant, they're very warm and inviting, which are like things that are just not black metal, but that is kind of how I felt about this. And even the more depressive stuff, as dreary and as downtrodden as it is so well written. The pianos, the atmosphere, the different vocal dynamics on here, like, all this really just contributes to making this a very engaging listen. Like, I just was completely lost in this, almost like sort of a trance-like state. And again, while it drones, it doesn't hang on to stuff so long to the point where you're like, oh my God, do something else. This stays interesting. Guitar work in here is absolutely fantastic for sticking to one particular style. They did pretty much everything in their power to make it sound just beautiful. Strongly recommend this if you're a fan of Wolves in the Throne Room and Garia. Like, this is right up that alley. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, and I agree, 4 out of 5, and which is kind of nuts for me. I don't know that I ever thought I would rate a black metal album 4 out of 5, but here we are, because they do a great job of keeping you engaged, and even if you're not into those drony things, and even when they're doing the black metal parts, it's not drony. Typical black metal would be like da da da. Well, here they do those notes, but then they play with that upper belly though, da 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 da, and it creates this really cool hooky melody. And they can incorporate that into the black metal stuff, and then they open up the drums and they give it that rock feel, and it just makes for a great listen. And even just as a music listener, not even a black metal fan or whatever fan.
When you hear something catchy, you hear something catchy. This is catchy.
It's pretty catchy.
But don't worry, it's still cold and it's still evil.
Don't worry, guys. Don't worry, black belt dudes. They got you. They got you. This band has you. I promise you, they got you.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. Our store is also there. We are eventually going to get more shirts in there and like some different stuff. But we've got a lot of different things we're working on, and one big one is the whole Denver Death Fest. Tell them about it, Miller.
Yeah, we just had some bands announced, and we're doing another wave of announcements here soon. That thing's going along. We're going to have some shows locally as well at a place that is near and dear to a lot of us guys at Thralls' hearts.
I remember drinking underage there as a teenager.
Yeah, which is not, we're not doing that. We're not doing that anymore.
No.
There's none of that anymore. But it's going to be great. We had a lot of big plans, a lot of things going for sure.
And of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following. It is amazing to see this channel grow. I know I try to think of different things to say at the end of these, but it's just thank you. Oh my God, it's fucking awesome doing this. It's become a huge part of our lives.
Yes.
You know, we look forward to this year being even bigger than last year. So far, release-wise, it's been pretty fucking cool. We got rankings coming up, Crowbar. We will eventually get down to that one, and we will announce all the next batch of rankings at the end of that video. So stay tuned for that, too. But thank you once again, and we will catch you later.